But right now, we want to go to the hotline to welcome onto the program one of the veterans re-signed by the Commanders in free agency and retained by the organization on the Rude Guest Hotline. Rude, the most reliable heating and air conditioning products in the DMV. We find tight end John Bates, who just signed a new 3-year deal to come back and lead the way in the ground game as a premium blocking tight end. John, thank you so much for the time. You're on with Grant and Toby in DC. How are you?
Hey, guys. Doing good. Thanks for having me on.
You got it. Let's just start with what this process was like for you. I mean, you had a chance potentially to go to the market and see what was out there or to stay here in DC and re-sign. What was your mindset at the end of the year, and how did it all play out?
Yeah, I mean, just the culture, I think, first off, that, DQ and AP have set up in this place since the day they got here is made it a place that makes it really hard to leave. And so I think towards the end of the year, with obviously the success we have and being here through, I guess you could say, some of the hard times with this organization, it's really my goal to stay here and to remain here. And so the process was really smooth, thank goodness. And this is the place I wanted to be. So got it done and made it happen.
Can you talk about the growth that this team showed? I mean, week 1 against Tampa versus the team that we saw go into Detroit and win in the playoffs. That offense especially, just a totally different look. Obviously, Jayden grew as the season went on, but you guys seem to get more comfortable with Cliff doing his job well as well. How was that as the season went on? Was it just the chemistry that started to click? Was there a time frame where you said, oh, okay, now we're starting to get it, and you could see those results on the field?
Yeah, for sure. I think it was just, chemistry was a big part of it. And then it's a new offense. And so we had a lot of new guys coming from different places, and we had guys that were here already. And so, developing that, it takes time. And so I think as the season went on, you saw, the offense really start to click and understand each other and how everyone operates and does things, and kind of how, Cliff goes about play calling and all that stuff. And so it was really cool to see our offense, from week 1 in Tampa to develop all the way into the end of the year, which was really cool to see.
John Bates, drafted in the 4th round in 2021, entering year 5 with the Commanders, just signed a new 3-year deal to stay in D.C. You're one of the guys on this team that's known for being really unselfish. You don't make any demands. You're not asking for the football. You go out there and you do the dirty work. You're blocking. Your role actually in the passing game kind of diminished this season as you became known as one of the real true great blocking tight ends in the league. I'm just curious, what's that's like? Because I'm sure you'd like to get the ball in space. You'd like to be more involved like you were over the last couple of seasons. Did that ever bother you that maybe the targets weren't there, or is that something you were cool with?
Yeah. I think everyone wants to be able to touch the ball, right? It's a cool opportunity to be able to touch the ball and make plays and help your team in that way too. But I think also, I'm willing to do whatever it takes as long as we win. And so, unfortunately, not necessarily, the stats didn't show that necessarily last year, but I had more fun just going out there and winning games. And so, at the end of the day, that's, what I'm here for, is to win games and to win championships.
You mentioned earlier that you kind of been here through some lean years, even though you've, only had a 4-year career so far going into your 5th year. You obviously had a really successful season this past year. What's that been like watching the change? Obviously, you had coaching staff change. You've had an ownership change. Now you're seeing kind of the fan base re-energized. What's that look like inside the building and as a player?
Oh, yeah, it's crazy, just like the difference from a culture standpoint and the energy. I mean, you go in the building now and it's like coaches and everyone that's in that building has energy, isn't excited to see each other. And it's not just like transactional relationships. It's true, authentic relationships where if you're walking.
I think we lost John there. We will call him back and get him on the horn. I want to go right back to that answer.
Yeah.
Because what he was just saying, is very interesting. Not a transactional relationship, energy up. That happens when you win, by the way. Everyone's excited to get to work, but it does seem like maybe there was this feeling now with this group of, and I think this starts with Adam Peters, frankly, that they really genuinely care about the players.
Sure.
That they put them first. You saw this, I think, reflected in some of the NFLPA polling, where Washington went from 32nd, dead last for a couple of years in terms of best place to play, to 11th. We've got tight end John Bates back. But, John, we'll pick up where we left off there. You were saying the energy in the building and the exuberance is up, and that the relationships maybe aren't transactional.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can, stop anyone in the hallway. Doesn't matter if it's, a trainer, strength staff, offense, defensive coach. Like, you can say what's up to each other in the hallway and have like a real conversation. And I think that's the cool thing, like I said earlier, just about like what AP and, DQ have done with the culture is they've made it a true like family environment, and you can feel that. And it's just so different than before because you really feel like you're with your family no matter who's in that building. And so it's been really special to be a part of and just see the change over the, last few years and just whatever's like gone on. And so it's truly a special place.
I mean, you talk about DQ. How does he go about doing that? Is that something that obviously he fosters and the players kind of build that relationship together? Or is it, something where he's coming up with activities? How does that happen?
I know last year when we kind of all got together, DQ implemented kind of the things that he wanted from a coaching standpoint and from a team standpoint. And then, we had a military group come in and, do some team bonding stuff. And then after that team bonding stuff, we kind of put, like a players pact, I guess you could say, of things and standards that we were going to hold each other accountable to. And I think once we implemented that and we had the structure of our team standard and how we were going to go about things, it truly just built on from there. And the cool part was that there wasn't really any lack in any area from players on the team. It was kind of just, this is how we're going to do things. And everyone was all in on it. And there was no one really having to tell each other how to do things because we were just all risen to that standard.
John, I want to know your early impressions right away of Jayden Daniels, and then bonus points if you have a moment that you can think of or an anecdote. But when you knew, whether it was in game or well before that, that this guy was different.
Yeah. I mean, like, for starters, just how mature and poised he was as a quarterback and as a player. And just like how down to earth he is too. Like, you can just have a conversation with him. Like, he's a normal person and he'll treat you the same way. And, just the way he handles himself, he's never too high, never too low for the moment, which is super special. And I mean, I don't think there's necessarily any one moment where it's like, okay, this kid's for real. I mean, really from the day, he got in the building, just impressive all around, and the way he handled himself and his business and the way he prepared, and it translated to game day. And so it's been really special having him in the building and just what he's able to do, not only on the field, but off the field. It's awesome to see.
What's it like having a guy like Zach Ertz in the tight end room to work alongside someone that has so much veteran leadership, so much experience and winning experience as a Super Bowl champion himself? What's it like working alongside him?
Yeah, it's great. I got nothing but respect for Zach and everything that he's done in his career. And, it's really cool to have him in the room because he's obviously had a lot of success and, won a Super Bowl and all this stuff. But it's really cool just being able to pick his brain and see him go about his routine and just see how much of a pro he is and the way he handles himself. I mean, dude is like crazy regimented through the season and he's got a system and, it works great for him. And so just being able to pick his brain and, he's a great leader in the room too. And he's able to help us, everyone in the room with questions or anything that we have. And we're all able to work together and kind of bounce ideas off each other. So it's been awesome having him in the room.
John Bates re-upped with the Commanders for the next 3 seasons, joining us on Grant and Danny here on The Fan. Speaking of Zach Ertz, He met with the media the other day. I don't know why. It was like at 6:50 in the morning. It was the weirdest thing ever. It was literally the earliest press conference in team history, I'm pretty sure. But he was asked about you staying on a 3-year deal. And I think you're an awesome player. To hear him talk about you made me think maybe I sleep on you a little bit. And I don't take you, give you enough credit. But listen to what Ertz said about you, John.
John doesn't get the probably national recognition that he deserves in terms of what he does on a every play basis for us last year. But he's probably the most dominant blocking tight end I've really ever seen and studied in my career. The guy, he's just dominant at the line of scrimmage. What he does, there's not many guys walking the earth that can do what John Bates does. And so I was ecstatic. I knew he was going to have the opportunity to make a lot of money, and I'm just glad it's here in Washington.
Number one, he should be your agent. I think you've got a good agent, but maybe he could help. But number two, he called you the most dominant tight end that he's ever studied or seen. Guy's been around for 15 years. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool to hear that coming from Zach, who, like we talked about earlier, has the resume and has been around for so long. And so, it means a lot coming from him and whatnot, which is really cool.
Taking a look at the offseason, what are some things you want to work on, improve in your game? Obviously, like you just heard, Zach Ertz said you're a heck of a blocker. What are some things you want to maybe work on this offseason? Yeah,
honestly, like to be general, I think everything. I think there's always room for improvement in every area. Continue to get better at the run blocking, continue to progress in the pass game, running routes, creating separation. And then I think too, just a really important thing, especially year after year, as you're in this thing longer, I think the defensive recognition and understanding defense is another area where I want to keep improving on, because you know exactly what's happening pre-snap and what the defense is doing based off of an alignment. I think that makes a world of difference for just anticipation for yourself and, kind of being one step ahead. And so that's kind of where I want to, continue to keep improving.
All right, John, I'll end the conversation here, but I do want to ask a few questions to help our listeners get to know you a little better off the field. First time we've had you on the show here. So we'll start with, what is your cheat meal of choice?
Cheat meal of choice? I think my cheat meal of choice is honestly like probably Mexican food of some sort, something like super cheesy and maybe greasy, like a quesadilla or a burrito. I try to stay away from dairy throughout the season because of like inflammation and stuff. So if I'm going to go all out, I'm probably just going on some Mexican food.
What's your nerdiest thing you like to learn about? Like something that you'll watch a documentary of or just intrigued by?
In terms of like nerdiness documentaries and stuff, I've always kind of been like a historical buff growing up. For whatever reason, I've always just been drawn to history. So, I don't do it as much anymore, but like I always growing up loved watching like historical documentaries on like wars and like past times. And then too, I love the outdoors and nature. So honestly, like, the one that's about the world planet. I can't remember what it's called.
The Americas right now.
Planet Earth.
Planet Earth.
Yeah,
Planet Earth. Okay.
Like
the new one, the Americas, is a banger, by the way.
Yeah, it's super interesting to me. So
I love that.
Say those two things.
All right, last one is your superhero of choice.
Oh, superhero of choice. Man, I think I have to go with Iron Man. I think just like the savviness, like his personality, and just like all the technology and everything that he's able to create and have access to. I think it's one of those things that's pretty hard to stop. So I can go Iron Man.
That's a pretty good answer for a tight end. A little bit of everything. I like that. John, appreciate the time, man. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you guys for having me on.
Be good. Congrats on the new deal. There's John Bates, 3-year contract, staying in D.C. He's one of now 13 players that Washington has retained.